Trust. Trust is a very important thing when it comes to any business, franchise, or fan base. The reason it's an important word is because once you lose that trust, it's hard to get it back. And when it's hard to get it back, that usually means that nobody will believe a word you say. And this is very noteworthy when it comes to multiple franchises and companies out there. Because the people that run those companies, the presidents, the CEOs, the owners, when they come out and they say, oh, believe me, we're going to do things for you, and then they follow through by not doing so and doing the opposite, that trust, it evaporates. So when Vince McMahon came back to the board of directors with the sole intention, as he put it, to just facilitate a possible sale of the company and overlook the upcoming TV media rights deals, the trust that he's trying to gain from the fans, from the talent within WWE, from those within the Stamford, Connecticut offices of Titan Towers, that trust is very, very thin. It's so thin that you could cut yourself with that trust and you can see the veins pop out of your fingers. Because it will cut so deep that the bleeding would almost not stop. It would, but not until your finger turns the color of pale white. Because you've lost all blood in that finger. And you lose all blood in that finger because of the trust you've been giving the person time and time again, only to be stabbed in the back and lied to multiple times. And that's why a lot of folks, like JD, who, by the way, made the news, JD from NY206 made the news, recently on Fox News' article on the website by being quoted on what he said the first time he heard this. And to me, that's a good signal for the wrestling fan base in general, wrestling analysis here on YouTube and various podcast locations. Because of the fact that now it lets the entire world, including WWE and AEW, it lets them know that we fans may act like we're marks, but we do pay attention and we take into account what we see to give our opinions. And that sometimes those opinions could be right on the money. When people like JD and JUSTALYX and Solomonster and OTR Central hear that Vince only wants to be here to do that, they don't believe him. They don't. I mean, people can point out to them all the evidence pointing to the fact that Vince can't make a move, that Vince has to stick by his word. They don't believe it. Dave Meltzer is a controversial wrestling analysis for years, decades. He doesn't believe it. Brian Alvarez, who occasionally wrestles, also wrestling fan analysis, doesn't believe it. Brian Zane, Wrestling with Regret, does not believe it. The point being is that Vince is one of those people that has told multiple people, multiple towns, trust me, everything's going to be okay, trust me, only for him to turn against that trust, only for him to lie about that trust, to stab those in the back about that trust. And just like I said, it would cause the finger to continuously bleed until it's pale white. And this is why, despite what I would say, despite what others in various comments here on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter would say to them in response, they don't believe it. They don't. Now, like I said, Vince has signed documentation that's been given a copy of to multiple places like the SEC, the FTC, the board of directors at WWE, his own family, and all that. Possible suitors to buy the company. Everybody has been given a copy of this. And in that copy, he states he is satisfied, he is happy with the current management that we have. And if he tries a power move of any kind that goes against what he says in that document, they can bring that document out and remind him of what he said. Because when he put his signature to that documentation, which everybody has copies of, he's basically agreeing to not only what he said about the management team, but he's agreeing to only be there for what he says he's going to be there for. And despite that, though, people still don't trust him. People like JD, JUSTALYX, OTR Central, Solid Mustard, Brian Alvarez, Dave Meltzer, Brian Zane, Wrestling with Greg, you name it. They do not trust and believe a single thing he said that's in that document. Because they know that the way this guy is, he can find a loophole. A loophole that will allow him to gain more power. Allow him to gain more control. In fact, I even believe that the reason he wants to now sell is because he has this belief that whoever they sell to will give him ultimate power. He will have everything back under his control. But, truth be told, in my opinion, I think that's what Vince, if that is his thought process for coming back to try to sell, that's where his belief, his ego, is going to come back to bite him. Because whoever they sell the company to, they're going to overlook the difference between how Vince ran things in his final years as the overall power overlord that he was in the company, to what Triple H and his crew and Stephanie and their crew have been doing. And you know what's going to happen? They'll choose Stephanie, Nick, and Triple H over Vince. Period. They will. They will choose them over him. He might be there to facilitate the sale and make it finalized. But they're going to say, oh, by the way, Vince, we're choosing your daughter and your son-in-law and Mr. Nick Khan here to be running the business, not you. That's where his ego is going to come back to bite him. If he's truly believing this is going to lead him back to ultimate power. That's where his ego is going to come back to bite him. But again, everybody feels and believes that Vince is not just here to help do those two things, but to gain back control. I mean, they said in a meeting, without the talent, that being Stephanie, Triple H, and those that led it, that things will not change. Day-to-day operations will not change at this time. Now, those three final words really got people worried. Because by saying at this time, it's almost like Stephanie, Nick Khan, what was it, Barry, somebody named Barry or something like that, and Triple H and whoever else, basically was saying, by quoting at this time, unless somebody just added in there that did the article just to scare people, who knows. Sometimes people can put in an article, here's the thing, some people can do articles based on things like that and then add a little something at the end to scare people. So we don't know if they said at this time was part of how they closed out the meeting. But anyway, although Sean Ross Sapp did report it, so it's more believable, but anyway, those three last things do get people worried, because that's almost like Stephanie and Nick Khan and their crew are kind of admitting that, yeah, we may not be running things the way we want to very soon, in the near future. But here's what's interesting. According to various reports, Vince is not in Stamford, Connecticut. He's not. That he's actually doing business somewhere else. And that they might be doing it via phone, via Zoom, who knows. But he's not there at the Stamford offices and Titan Towers. Now, some might look at that as a good thing. Like, oh, Vince is not there. Maybe that's a sign. Maybe that's part of the agreement that, yeah, you can be part of this, you just can't physically be here. But again, it's all part of that belief and trust that is so thin that people cannot take it seriously. They can't. They can't. Now, I'm sure people that probably read that Fox News article within WWE, showed it to Stephanie, showed it to Nick Khan, showed it to Triple H. I'm sure some of them got a kick out of JD being quoted and everything, and probably laughing and go like, oh man, that JD doesn't know what he's talking about. And they have a right to their opinion. They do. But here's the thing. Again, with someone like JD and Alex and OTR Central and Solid Monster, it's all about the trust. And the trust is so thin that they know that if they even allow it to happen, they will be cut and they will bleed. They know that. They know that. And they have a right to know that. They have a right to feel that way because of everything that's happened. That's what trust and belief is when it comes to anything, whether you're the owner of a franchise that people are fans of and want to support or team or whatever. Trust is everything. You have to maintain that trust. You may have to keep backing up what you promise so that those that are fans, those that support you, those that invest in you, those that want to work for you or are working for you, know that anytime you say something's going to happen, it's going to happen. And that you're not going to lie to them. And when it comes to Vince right now and him saying, I'm only here to do this, they don't believe it. Stephanie and Nick Khan might have more power, believe it or not, than Vince right now. Whether people are not looking at that or they are. They might have more power than him. Chairwoman, co-CEO, and co-CEO. Believe it or not, from what I can tell, that does spell that Stephanie has a little bit more power than her dad. And I guarantee you, she's been on the phone with him constantly. Paul Levesque, they've been on the phone with him constantly and reminding him that if he's going to be part of this, that he needs to just do what he says he's going to be there for. Because if he even tries once to overstep his boundaries, something will happen. Something will happen that will force them to probably take him to court. Because he's breaking the agreement. Again, what he said about the fact that we have an exceptional management team and I'm not planning to do all this, that people think I am, that's all quoted in the documentation that he signed, that everybody's got a copy of. But again, I understand that despite all that, people have trust issues with this. They have belief issues with this, and I don't blame you. But I'll say this. If I'm going to give a timetable, I'm going to give till after Mania. If everything seems unfazed between now and Mania and afterwards, then I know things seem to be all right. That maybe for once, Vince is living up to his end of the bargain. In fact, I'll go even further. I'll give up to the first whole year of the Triple H regime. And if nothing changes after from now to Mania and afterwards, and from Mania to SummerSlam, if nothing really changes, then we'll know that Vince kept his word, or at least he was basically put into a situation where he has to keep his word. That is the timetable I give. I give for the short term right now, between now and after Mania. And for the long term, I give from between now and a year, which is SummerSlam with the Triple H regime, to see whether or not things change or Vince actually stood by his word. We'll have to see. But again, guys, it's all about trust and belief. It's all about trust and belief within this company. And everybody within it, from talent to those that work at the Titan Tower offices in Stamford, Connecticut, to even the fans. Fans that report the news or view wrestling and all that for a living or for a hobby here on YouTube and through various podcasts. Hardcore casual. It's the trust and belief. That's the thing, with Vince saying he's only here to do these two things that they cannot take seriously and they do not trust. But I guarantee that if nothing does change within the next 7 months, especially these next 4 months or 3.5 months, then yes, there might be a possibility that, they were telling the truth. But if we do see change, and like I said before, if you end up seeing a photograph of Vince McMahon or even a video of him that's recent that shows him in gorilla, then you have to worry. But let's give it a timetable, guys. Between now, overall timetable, between now and SummerSlam, which will mark a year, to see exactly what's going to happen. And if nothing does, then maybe the worry we had was for nothing, and it was all because, this worry that we got, like I said, it's all for nothing, and it was all caused because of years of distrust. And now we can finally breathe. But if we do see changes, then yeah, we'll know something was up. But also, again, we have to remind ourselves that if he tries anything, that could spell trouble for him, not just the company. Because if they have documentation that's not public about other things he's done under the table, that could get, that if made public, could not only make him but the company look bad. If they have that, then yeah, they could hold that against him and say, look, we have this. You pull anything, we'll do it. We will make it public. And it might make us look bad, but make you look bad worse. So we'll have to see. And that's the one thing, like I say, we have to remind ourselves. They say they have information that's not been made public of other things he's done. They could hold that against him so that he doesn't attempt any coup. Ultimate coup, if you will. Outside of just being brought back for the sales and the TV media rights deals. But, again, it's all about trust and belief, guys. And I give it a timetable. An overall timetable between now and SummerSlam, which will be a year. And if nothing really changes, then the worry that we have all had was for nothing, and it was only because of years of distrust. But we'll see. But let me know what your thoughts are. Comment below, live chat during the premiere, and I'll talk to y'all later.